Battle of Yamama was a significant confrontation that took place in 632 CE in the aftermath of the death of the Prophet Muhammad. It was fought between the forces of the early Islamic State, led by Abu Bakr, the first caliph, and a rebellious group of former Muslims, often referred to as the apostates or the Ridda renegades. These groups, led by Musaylima, a self-proclaimed prophet, opposed the authority of the new Islamic leadership. After the death of Prophet Muhammad in 632 CE, the Arabian Peninsula experienced a wave of apostasy where several tribes and individuals rejected Islam or refused to pay the obligatory zakat alms. Abu Bakr, the newly appointed caliph, launched a series of military campaigns to suppress these rebellions, known as the Ridda Wars. One of the most prominent and dangerous apostates was Musaylima al-Kazab, Musaylima the liar, who had claimed prophethood and led a large faction in the region of Yamama, a fertile area in central Arabia, in present-day Saudi Arabia. His followers were engaged in the battle against the forces of the early Muslim state. Musaylima's claim to prophethood was initially met with resistance from the early Muslims, and the Caliph Abu Bakr sent forces to confront him. The Battle of Yamama occurred in December 632 CE or early 633 CE, depending on sources, shortly after the Battle of Aqaba and other confrontations between the forces of Abu Bakr and the apostates. The battle was seen as a decisive moment in the consolidation of Islamic rule over Arabia, as it involved a direct confrontation between the forces of Abu Bakr and the large, well-organized army of Musaylima. Forces involved. Abu Bakr sent Khalid Bin Walid, one of the most famous generals of early Islam, to lead the Muslim army against Musaylima. The Muslim forces were composed of around 13,000 men, including seasoned warriors from earlier campaigns in the Ridda Wars. Musaylima's forces were said to number around 40,000 or more, including both Arab tribes and others who had joined him in his rebellion. Tactics and strategy. The Muslim forces faced a formidable opponent, and the battle took place in the open plains of Yamama. Musaylima's army used a variety of tactics, including heavy infantry, archers, and cavalry, but the Muslims, under Khalid's leadership, managed to deploy effective military strategies despite being outnumbered. The Muslims took advantage of their superior leadership and tactics, particularly in their ability to make rapid movements and adapt to changing circumstances. The role of Khalid ibn al-Walid. Khalid ibn al-Walid played a decisive role in the battle. His military genius was crucial in the Muslim victory. He effectively countered Musaylima's forces, using a feigned retreat to lure Musaylima's troops into a vulnerable position. This tactic led to the breaking of Musaylima's front lines. Musaylima's death. Musaylima was killed in the battle, reportedly by a Muslim warrior named Washi ibn Harb, the same person who killed Hamza, the uncle of the Prophet Muhammad, in the Battle of Uhud. With his death, the morale of his followers was shattered, and many of his soldiers fled or surrendered. Aftermath and consequences. Mass casualties. The battle was fierce, and both sides suffered heavy losses. It's estimated that around 10,000 of Musaylima's men were killed, while the Muslims suffered significant casualties as well. Many of the Quranic memorizers, Hafiz, who were key in preserving the Quran, were killed in the battle. Impact on the Quran. The death of so many memorizers of the Quran in the Battle of Yamama prompted Abu Bakr to commission the compilation of the Quran into a single book form. This was to ensure that the Quran would be preserved after the loss of so many of its memorizers. The task of compiling the Quran was entrusted to Zayd ibn Thabit, one of the companions of the Prophet, who oversaw the collection of the Quranic verses. Victory for the Muslims. The victory at Yamama solidified Abu Bakr's control over the Arabian Peninsula and was one of the final blows against the apostates. With Musaylima's death, his movement disbanded, and the Central Arabian region came under Islamic rule. Legacy: the battle marked the end of large-scale resistance to the early Islamic state within the Arabian Peninsula. It also demonstrated the military and organizational strength of the early Muslim forces, who were able to unite under the leadership of Abu Bakr and his generals. The Battle of Yamama was a pivotal event in the history of early Islam. It effectively ended the apostasy movement in Central Arabia, allowed for the consolidation of Islamic power, and led to significant developments in the preservation of the Quran. The battle also highlighted the importance of strong leadership and military strategy, particularly through the leadership of Khalid ibn al-Walid.